there's several others there those are the main ones that we connect with, and then does seem to be out of Orion. There does seem to be a group or that these systems also have some small groups coming out of there that are regenerate as well, and mainly out of the Orion system, from what I hear. So they have. J.J. Hurtak talks about the Orion Council of Light, and I've experienced those beings, and I was initiated by one, and it was phenomenal on what happened. But, everything was returned to me, all my memories, past life memories, off-world, this world, everything. And it turned me upside down for about 2 weeks after that experience. I had to kind of recalibrate and get grounded. But they're there, and I think we all have to just... like Jesus said, by their fruits you'll know them, and I think more by their frequency you'll know them, or by their vibration you'll know them, and their deeds. Are they empowering you as an individual to make your own personal God connection? Are they speaking of love and joy and bliss and harmony? Or are they creating a lot of fear and separation and againstness, like these low-level programs going on?
Right, and that does bring us back to this, because here I am when I'm just as a person doing this work in the Capitol and writing the book, and just feeling like all of a sudden I feel like my consciousness is plugged into this greater reality, e pluribus unum. It's like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't reconcile with what I'm hearing about disclosure. Nobody's talking about this kind of thing. Everybody's talking about more kind of the fear stuff, and it just doesn't even reconcile. And I wonder, how come there's such a big gap? And I think that's about when your letter went out, kind of addressing this, is that here's the gap and here's the problem. And I could really relate to it, because there's really nothing beautiful, or even in a way even appealing about disclosure as it's presented, for the most part, to me.
Well, what I've seen about disclosure and being involved in it is that, I don't want to put down that program, and they are doing a benefit in getting out the fact that UFOs are here, they've always been here, and also, too, is bringing out a lot of the real credible witnesses, top government officials and everything else. But it goes back to that old program: is the mind in which you seek is the mind in which you connect. And if you have a military mindset of againstness and the enemy and all this other stuff, you're not really going to hook up with these higher beings, and it just doesn't happen. But I've had people in the military after they've done a shift in consciousness, and they released the past and had a major awakening, and then they did connect with these higher beings. But they had to change their entire mindset for this to happen, and I just don't see that in that program, unfortunately. It's the majority of the program, and I've had some of those guys ask me, well, how come you don't have me come and speak at the conference? And I said, well, that's a really good question. How come you haven't had me come and speak? And they go, that was a good question, and that was the end of it. I just said, I said, well, I don't want to promote that these guys are all a threat. We fear change in the unknown, and that is the biggest threat. And we have to get over that, because these beings do represent change in the unknown, and we're here to make the unknown known. That's why we incarnated, is to experience, the unknown and grow and evolve. So it's just a matter of where the direction that's going in. I asked him, I said, well, what about all these extremely advanced beings that are 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional beings, 9th dimensional beings, that have transcended all of this separation, greed, war, lack. They've transcended disease. They have their abundant energy, transportation, all their energy needs are met fearlessly. And I said, what about all of these beings? Why don't they get a venue or some space in these conventions? And you just don't hear about it. They're either trying to prove that they're real, or they keep your head cranked back into the past, or they're with Roswell and everything else, or you're just going, it's happening now, folks, and the majority of it is benevolent. And when are we going to look into our ancient roots and realize that these people have been guiding us all along, which I commend you for the work that you're doing, is showing that they have been a part of kind of keeping us on track and keeping us evolving, in a positive manner so we don't devolve and totally destroy ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, and thank you for that, because, I mean, that is definitely something that just came out loud and clear in this search, especially, again, concerning the Capitol. It's like, well, wait a minute, I mean, this is totally benevolent, this group and this teaching here, and how come we're not being encouraged to achieve our rainbow body as if there is such a thing, a prerequisite towards becoming affiliated with these people? And because that is ultimately, to me, the path that puts you on the path of enlightenment and benevolence. And when you're focused on that, you're completely away from the whole military paradigm. And that's why I just found it really difficult to reconcile what I'm seeing here, because it just seemed like, okay, the U.S. military is completely irrelevant to any of this. Why are we always looking to have the military prove that this is actually so? Because they are absolutely nothing compared to what we're describing here.
Mm-hmm. And, they can't wrap their heads around it. They can wrap their heads around the low-level stuff, because it matches their frequency and their consciousness, but they can't even wrap their heads around the fact that these beings are interdimensional and are ultradimensional, and that their technology is a spiritual technology, and it's not used, to harm anyone or anything.
Right.
And they're not aggressive, they're not a threat, and our biggest threat is ourselves and our own actions and consciousness.
And to me, it's kind of a wink-wink kind of a joke that this is inside the dome of the United States Capitol, this message. And the dome of the Capitol is a model for a portal. I mean, Washington, as he's portrayed on the rainbow, surrounded by these 13 star beings, is also encircled by 72 stars, which you look up at that and say, well, wait a minute, that's a circle of stars, that's a gate of stars. Isn't that a stargate that he's in? And isn't 72 one of the most important numbers in the precession of the equinoxes code? And isn't this telling us that maybe there's some big galactic working that's in place here? And of all places, the dome of the U.S. Capitol encodes this teaching. I mean, this has got to be significant, and we need to pay attention to it.
It's almost like this giant clock is like ticking away, and then it reaches a certain point, and then it's going to go into overdrive and fast spin, and anybody who can't hang on is just going to be flung out, flung off the planet or something. I don't know, but it's quite interesting. To me, in the interest of national security, we should be aligning with the benevolent ones, because they have full use of creational energies and demonstrated technologies far beyond anything we can imagine. And in the interest of national security, we should be working with them to help, in disease, to help knock out all these horrendous biologicals that are flying around that are created in laboratories, and bring in the technology to heal this stuff, to turn this planet around, to clean up, the air and the water and everything else. It makes no sense whatsoever, no common sense whatsoever, other than the fact that our leadership is just totally blind and ignorant and illogical, and are just focused on their lust for power and greed at any expense. They have lost all soul connection,
Yeah, I agree.
Or they're connected to something else. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I see that too, because in my own personal experience doing the research in the Capitol, I mean, the spiritual energy in that place is palpable. You feel it. And you can easily see how a person, an elected person, for example, coming into such a place who has no spiritual awareness whatsoever, is completely living in the lower three chakras, in other words, would just be intoxicated and overwhelmed by the energy of the place.
Yeah, it's probably why Bush is in rehab right now.
Yeah, right.